Good evening. Please let me call to order the Bristol, Tennessee City Council meeting of November 10, 2020. Tara, would you please call the roll?
Yes, sir. Luttrell,
Here.
Turner,
Here.
Robin,
Here.
Keene,
Here.
Powers.
Here.
I would like to welcome everyone and thank you for participating in tonight's meeting. Your interest in city government is appreciated. Please be patient with us this evening as we continue our utilization of an electronic platform for tonight's meeting. As is our practice, there will be an opportunity to speak of matters of city business this evening during the appearance of citizens section of the agenda. Instructions for participating in tonight's meeting is provided on the scrolling message at the bottom of your viewing screen. Next, we're going to have the invocation and pledge of allegiance. Before starting, I would like to say that I've known these gentlemen for a very long time and very proud to call them our friends. At this time, I'd like to ask Mr. Danny Hill to lead us in our invocation.
Good evening, everyone. Would you join me in a moment of prayer? Our Father God, I come to you this evening thanking you for the privilege of prayer. That way is how we communicate with you. You're our creator, and we thank you for that. As our elected officials and citizens come together this evening for the matter of discussing city business, may each one seek your guidance and discernment revolving around each and every matter. We thank you, Lord, for how blessings have already been showered around us. Please forgive us for the times we take for granted those provisions and watch care you provide. I pray for your continued mercy and grace on the fair cities of both Bristol, Tennessee, and Virginia, and may it always be said, this is a good place to live. I ask this prayer in the name of Jesus, to whom deserves all of our glory. Amen.
Amen. At this time, I'd like to ask Mr. Tyrone Foster to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you, Mr. Luttrell. Honorable council members, Mr. Sora. It's always a privilege to reach across the border. And without that being said, if you're able to, please rise and join me as we honor America with our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to thank both of you for being able to participate with us tonight, and we really do appreciate everything you do in our community. At this time, I'd like to ask Ms. Danielle Smith, City Attorney, to discuss the statutory authority for conducting this meeting by electronic means. Ms. Smith.
Thank you, Mayor Luttrell. As you all know, the governor has extended his executive order allowing governing bodies such as the City of Bristol, Tennessee to meet electronically through December 27th, 2020. In order to meet electronically, the governing body has to make a determination that meeting electronically is necessary to protect the health, safety, and welfare of Tennesseans because of the COVID-19 crisis. One condition of meeting electronically is that if a staff member or council member is on audio only, you are asked to identify yourselves by name and position when you speak so that the public can understand who's speaking. So in order to proceed with the meeting electronically, City Council should make that determination that it's necessary to protect the health, safety, and welfare of Tennesseans. If there needs to be discussion, this would be an appropriate time to have it. Otherwise, the members should go ahead and vote on whether meeting electronically is necessary by roll call.
Okay, do we have a motion?
Motion to meet electronically per the governor's authority.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Luttrell,
Yes.
Turner,
Yes.
Robin,
Yes.
Keene,
Yes.
Powers.
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Sora, do you have any items to be added to the agenda this evening?
No, Mayor, the agenda is complete.
At this time, we have one proclamation and one recognition on tonight's agenda. First, we have a proclamation designating November 28th as Small Business Saturday in Bristol, Tennessee. I would like to ask Councilwoman Powers to read this proclamation.
Thank you, Mayor. Whereas the city of Bristol, Tennessee celebrates our local small businesses and the contributions they make to our local economy and community, according to the United States Small Business Administration, there are currently more than 31 million small businesses in the United States. They represent 99.9% of all businesses with employees in the United States, and they are responsible for 66% of the net new jobs created over the past 20 years. Whereas small businesses employ over 47.1% of all businesses in the private sector, and whereas on average 43% of consumers' holiday shopping will be done at small, independently owned retailers and restaurants, whereas 70% of adult U.S. consumers are aware of Small Business Saturday, and whereas 42% of consumers who reportedly shop at small, independently owned businesses on Small Business Saturday do so with friends or family, and 83% reported encouraging others to also shop or dine small. And whereas among consumers who said they participated on the day, 59% reported that they shopped small online on Small Business Saturday as well. Whereas among companies that were planning promotions on Small Business Saturday, 92% said the day helps their business stand out during the busy holiday shopping season. And whereas for every dollar spent at a small business, 67 cents stays within your local economy. And whereas the city of Bristol, Tennessee supports our local businesses that create jobs, boost our local economy, and preserve our neighborhoods. And whereas advocacy groups, as well as public and private organizations across the country, have endorsed the Saturday after Thanksgiving as Small Business Saturday. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the mayor of the city of Bristol, Tennessee, does hereby proclaim November 28, 2020 as Small Business Saturday and encourage the residents of our community and communities across the country to please, please, please support small businesses and merchants on Small Business Saturday and throughout the year. Mayor Malin Luttrell. And I believe this evening, do we have Maggie Bishop on the call?
We do.
Maggie, I'd like to thank you on behalf of Mayor Luttrell and our council for all of the hard work that you do with Believe in Bristol. We were on a call this morning, and the work that she does with Emily and other volunteers is just incredible and is a real contribution to our downtown. Maggie?
Well, thank you. As the Small Business Saturday neighborhood champion for our community, Believe in Bristol would like to thank all of council for this proclamation. You might not realize it, but every time you pick up a cup of coffee from your favorite neighborhood shop or buy a gift from a local artist online store, you're shopping small and making a difference. Small Business Saturday continues to be an annual holiday shopping tradition, just one part of the larger Shop Small movement that supports small businesses every day and everywhere. With the COVID-19 pandemic radically changing the way small businesses operate, community support is more important than it's ever been. According to the Shop Small team, 62% of U.S. small businesses reported they need to see consumer spending return to pre-COVID levels by the end of 2020 in order to stay in business. When you shop small this holiday season and all year long, you can help create a big impact. Of course, there will continue to be ways to support locals safely this holiday season. Curbside and online options will still be available. And of course, gift cards make great stocking stuffers. Our locally owned restaurants have perfected the quality of their to-go menu items, and private shopping appointments can also be made at most all of our small businesses, the kind of customer service you can't receive from a big box or online retailer. For every dollar you spend in a small business, 67 cents of that returns to our local economy, which means it's more than just shopping or dining. Shopping at a family-owned framing shop or buying a handmade ring from your favorite local small business helps to promote more vibrant communities. When we spend local, small businesses thrive. And when small businesses thrive, our community thrives. Thank you.
And Mayor Luttrell, if we could, while Maggie's on, Maggie, I know that there have had to be some amendments made to our open house and this, that, and the other. Are you prepared this evening to talk about that?
We have not made a formal announcement at this time. We are working on a larger scale marketing unveiling, but you are correct. Our typical holiday shopping season will not look the way it has in the past, unfortunately, with several things being canceled.
Okay, so more to come.
More to come.
Thank you.
Thank you, Maggie. Next, we would like to publicly recognize Ms. Tara Music and the Finance Department for receiving the Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting from the Government Finance Officers Association for the fiscal year ending June 30, 2019. This is the 17th consecutive year that the City of Bristol, Tennessee, under the leadership of Ms. Music, has received this prestigious award. Ms. Music, would you like to offer your comments on the receipt of this award?
Yes, sir. I just wanted to thank council for encouraging the finance department to promote sound accounting practices and to do transparency and financial reporting. We've always been supported in doing that by the city manager and by council. And on behalf of the entire finance department, I just wanted to thank you for your support.
We certainly thank you for all the hard work that you guys put in every day. This is a very important and as it says, a very prestigious award. And I know this is something that governors from the state of Tennessee, really focuses on. So thank you. There are no presentations or public hearings on tonight's agenda. So let's move forward to the appearance of citizens sections of our agenda. This section provides an opportunity for the public to address City Council. Comments are limited to matters of city business only. A response will not likely be made at this time, since in most cases, neither the City Council nor the City Manager will be prepared to effectively respond to the concern. The City Manager will look into the matter and report back to City Council, or, as appropriate, have staff to meet with you in an effort to satisfy your concern. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per individual and are non-transferable to other individuals. Groups are encouraged to select a spokesperson to represent them. If you would like to participate in this evening's appearance of citizens section of our agenda, please follow the instructions scrolling at the bottom of your viewing screen. Mr. Cosmester, you have the floor.
While they're figuring that out, don't forget, Mayor, that he'll need to identify himself when he comes in.
Mr. Cosmester, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. Good evening, Mayor Luttrell, Council Members Turner, Firebend, Keene, Powers, and City Manager Sora. My name is Val Cosmeter.
Don't forget, Mayor, that he'll need to identify himself when he comes in.
Okay, can you all hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
My name is Val Cosmeter. I am here representing the Boone Lake Association. We're in Piney Flats, Tennessee. I am here this evening to request the opportunity. Thank you very much. Good evening, Mayor Luttrell, Council Members Turner, Firebend, Keene, Powers, and City Manager Sora. My name is Val Cosmeter.
Mayor, that he'll need to identify himself when he comes in.
Okay, can you all hear me now?
Yes.
My name is Val Cosmeter. I am here representing the Boone Lake Association. We're in Piney Flats, Tennessee. I am here this evening to request the opportunity. Thank you very much. Good evening, Mayor Luttrell, Council Members Turner, Firebend, Keene, Powers, and City Manager Sora. My name is Val Cosmeter. Okay, great. Let's try again here. My name is Val Cosmeter. I'm here representing the Boone Lake Association. We're located in Piney Flats, Tennessee. I'm here this evening to request the opportunity for the Boone Lake Association to present to the Council's working session next Tuesday morning at 11 a.m. Our organization has recently completed the purchase of a trash skimmer and associated equipment to use on the Watauga side of Boone Lake. Now it is time to turn our attention to the Holston River side of the lake. As you may be aware, the lake is projected. Let's try again here. My name is Val Cosmeter. I'm here representing the Boone Lake Association. We're located in Piney Flats, Tennessee. I'm here this evening to request the opportunity.
John, is he still there? Can you tell?
John, can you hear me? The lake is projected. Let's try again. My name is Val.
John doesn't show up.
Lake Association. We're located in Piney Flats. Yeah, for some reason it's broadcasting back through my phone from something on your end. Okay, let me try again. It stopped here. I was speaking about our recent acquisition of a trash skimmer to be used on the Watauga arm of Boone Lake. And now it's time to turn our attention to the Holston River side of the lake. As you may be aware, the lake is projected to return to full pool during the next 18 months or so. Coincident with that, it's broadcasting back through my phone from something on your end. Okay, let me try again. It stopped here. I was speaking about our recent acquisition of a trash skimmer to be used on the Watauga arm of Boone Lake. And now it's time to turn our attention to the Holston River side of the lake. As you may be aware, the lake is projected to to return to full pool during the next 18 months or so. Coincident with that, it's broadcasting back through my phone from something on your end. Okay, let me try again. I stopped here. I was speaking about a recent acquisition of a trash skimmer to be used on the Watauga arm of Boone Lake. And now it's time to turn our attention to the Holston River side of the lake. As you may be aware, the lake
Can I speak?
To return to full pool during...
Mr. Cosmeter, are you still with us?
Yes, I am.
Okay. If there's a computer, is there a computer or something near you that the phone may be picking up?
No, it shouldn't be because it shouldn't rebroadcast, but I've got everything muted and shut off again. So let me try one more time if you'd indulge me and see if we can get it to go.
I think if you'll just keep talking this time, I think you'll be fine.
Okay. Well, I think you all heard that we've turned our attention to a skimmer to be used on the Holston River side of Boone Lake. As you're aware, the lake is projected to return to full pool during the next 18 months or so. Coincident with that is the release of an enormous amount of trash, garbage, refuse, and the cuttings from TVA, which have accumulated on the exposed lake bed during the past several years while the water level has been reduced. This accumulated material, which consolidates into large slicks, represents a significant safety hazard to users of Boone Lake. We've already seen substantial accumulation, some of which already stretches from shore to shore, with the water coming up just 6 or 7 feet in the last couple of weeks. We can only imagine the mess, the safety concerns, and the loss of lake use when the water increases by 20 or more feet as we head up towards full pool during 2021. For 30 years, Boone Lake Association has dealt with accumulated trash with a manual effort. The onslaught faced now from years of accumulated refuse is more than can be addressed manually. We have researched and selected mechanical means by which to collect the floating debris. Already, Sullivan County has contributed 1/2 of the purchase price of such equipment from their share of the TVA economic impact payments, which are received by area municipalities while the dam is under repair, and then beyond on a sliding scale. Boone Lake Association would like to present their plan for mechanically addressing the trash on the Holston River to the Bristol City Council next Tuesday at the council working session. I would appreciate your consideration of that very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cosmister. Someone will be getting back with you on this.
I appreciate it very much. I have much information, and I know you all have received quite a substantial number of background publications from Tom McKee. So please feel free to reach out to me. I'm anxious to sit down and speak with you.
Thank you. We have one appointment to the Board of Zoning Appeals to be considered this evening. The appointment will be for a term ending September 30, 2022. The candidate is Ms. Catherine Steigers. Would anyone like to speak on behalf of Ms. Steigers?
Mayor, I'll be glad to say a few words. So I don't know Katie well, but I know her a little bit, and I reviewed her application, and on the second page, she gives a little bit of her background. I think the area that she lives in is different from the 3 people who are already on it, so that helps with that, spreading that out. She's a big participant in many of our city activities, and I know she was at the Slater Center for one of the Cedar Street planning sessions. Her profession right now, her job is with housing and planning, so she's got some of that background that helps. Education degree in urban affairs. Most recently, she also has volunteered as a poll worker when they called for additional folks this last election. And maybe of most current interest is that she, with the death of Alex Trebek, she apparently was a participant on Jeopardy at some point. So anyway, I think she comes with interest in participating and qualifications that certainly set her in good position for this Board of Zoning Appeals service. Thank you.
Yeah, I too had previously spoken to Ms. Tigers, and she's definitely very, very qualified and has a very good resume. Anyone else?
Yeah, I would just include to say, I think, Margaret, you may have mentioned this, that she served on the Believe in Bristol board as the Secretary Treasurer. She has a servant's heart. She's been involved with, I believe, the YWCA at one point. And I think that she would add a different perspective, and would love to see her have the opportunity to serve.
Anyone else? Okay, I believe we're ready to vote. Tara, would you please call the roll?
Luttrell,
Yes.
Turner,
No vote.
Fire Robin,
Yes.
King,
Yes.
Powers.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. We have 6 ordinances and 1 resolution for consideration on tonight's agenda. First on our agenda is the first reading of Ordinance 20-16, amending the zoning map designating property located at 1741 and 1745 King College Road as B1B, Neighborhood Shopping Commercial District. Mr. Sora, would you please summarize Ordinance 20-16?
Yes, Mayor, I'll give a brief summary of this issue, and then Ms. Sheriff Young will detail the issue in terms of appropriate uses in the B1B versus the R3 and so forth. But this issue is before you on first reading this evening. It is a request for rezoning of it started as a request for rezoning for 1745 King College Road. An application was received from Miss Laura Martirano. This property is the site of the former site of the Cornerstone Chapel. As staff was, and it is currently zoned R3, multifamily residential, and the request is to rezone it as B1B. As staff was reviewing this, they noticed that the property immediately west of there, 1741 King College Road, had a split zoning of R3 and B1B. The small triangular portion of this property, which amounted to 0.16 acres, had the zoning designation of R3. Everything west of that property had the B1B. So staff followed up with a conversation with the owner of 1741 King College Road, and they also agreed that it would be best to move toward a single zoning designation for that property. This matter was presented to the Planning Commission during their October 19th meeting, and they send a unanimous favorable request or recommendation to City Council. And Sheriff will detail this issue momentarily. But if you do approve it on first reading, then this issue will be back in front of you in form of both a public hearing and second reading during your December 1st meeting. Sheriff?
Thank you, Mr. Sora, and good evening, Mayor Luttrell, City Council members. As Mr. Sora stated in the introduction, this is a request to rezone 1741 and a portion of 1741 and 1745 King College Road from R3, which is a multifamily zone, to B1B, which is the neighborhood shopping and office zone. I'm going to go through a couple of visuals here so we know, there we go. So we have a visual on this site. Outlined in red are the parcels under consideration tonight. So you can see the church property is the larger parcel outlined in red. This is the former Cornerstone property. And then there is a triangular shaped piece of the parcel adjacent. That is the parcel that is zoned B1B, where the house sits on the parcel, but then this small corner is zoned R3 right now. So as Mr. Sora stated, we did have some conversations with the owner who is interested and very much agrees to rezoning that portion of his property to clean everything up. So he has everything under one zone. The next map, this is standing out in front of Cornerstone Church looking west towards the triangular shaped parcel on the map we just looked at. The next photo shows standing right in front of the church, so looking straight on at the Cornerstone building. The next map shows the zoning of this area. So the parcels outlined in red are zoned R3, so that's the purple pink kind of color you'll see on the map. Those are R3 zones. The parcels along King College Road, along this corridor that are yellow in appearance, are actually zoned B1B. So if this rezoning is ultimately approved, you'll have a continuation of that B1B on these two parcels outlined in red. The next map is an excerpt from our new future land use map. So the area shown along King College Road that shows up as a hatched, it's pink with hatch marks on it, is actually the neighborhood commercial classification. So the neighborhood commercial future land use classification does align well with our B1B zone. So staff does feel that this future land use map supports the rezoning request for that reason. The next two slides just show an overview and summary of some of the permitted uses and special use permit uses that are allowed in each zone. So the first use is the R3 zone. So this is what is in place today. Permitted uses include multifamily developments, cemeteries, general farming, parks, utilities, of course, single family developments, duplex developments, things that are more residential in nature. Some of the special use permit uses that are on the right side of the screen include churches, daycares, hospitals, philanthropic institutions and clubs, and assisted living facilities. The next slide shows the B1B permitted uses. So this expands somewhat to include uses that would serve a neighborhood. So under permitted uses, you of course have the single family duplexes. You also have some limited retail trade uses, some office professional type uses, limited healthcare and social assistance uses. You can have a full service restaurant in this zone, repair and maintenance businesses, and then religious uses. Under special use permit, you have the same uses that are allowed by special use permit in the R3 zone. Public notification requirements for this project, we did put a sign out in front of the property there. You might have seen it in the photo we reviewed earlier, but that was placed on the property, and adjacent property owners were notified of the request by a mailed letter, which included a return envelope and comment sheet for them to return feedback back to us. As of this time, we have received no negative feedback or opposition for this rezoning request. The recommendation tonight, due to the B1B zone on the property adjacent and agreement with the policies of the Bristol Future Land Use Plan and Policy, the staff recommendation is for City Council to approve this rezoning. Also, the Planning Commission did review this request at their meeting on October 19th and did vote unanimously to send a favorable recommendation to City Council for the rezoning of 1741 and 1745 King College Road. That I'd be happy to answer any questions you all might have.
Okay, any member of council have questions for staff?
Yes, wanted to ask, you said that I noticed that most of the King College frontage was recommended in our future land use as B1B, but it looks as though this property would be zoned further back in the neighborhood. And I'm just curious to know, was there any discussion about the back part of this property going to the B1B in the Planning Commission?
I don't believe Planning Commission discussed that for this project, they don't have any plans at this time to expand that building footprint. But obviously that they may not own the property forever. But the Planning Commission didn't comment on that fact.
I'm just curious to know though, all of the back part of that property is zoned, did you say R3 or R1?
It's zoned R3. So anything you'll see on the screen on this slide is zoned R3.
Okay, the only thing that concerns me a little bit is it goes fairly deep into the neighborhood, but I do see some adjacent property at the back of this that is close to the right-hand corner. So I just, no objections to that from anybody of the adjacent properties. I'll ask one more time.
No one from the adjacent properties, no.
And everyone on Robin Road was notified?
We sent the adjacent property owner letters to the folks that are touching that parcel.
Okay.
So we did not send, we didn't send a letter to everyone there on Robin Road. But the parcel, the public notice sign has been in place for some weeks. And to my knowledge, I certainly have not received any call from anybody on Robin Road, but to my knowledge, no one in the department has.
So what we're talking about, just to be clear, is what is in red, correct?
Correct. The entire parcels, the entire area outlined with the bold red line is what is the request tonight. And, one thing I certainly understand, and we have buffering requirements in terms of landscaping if somebody did want to expand that project to protect the neighborhood. But, some of the concern with the split zone is like what we looked at with the split zone there on Volunteer Parkway. It just gets a little bit difficult for the property owner if they do have that split zone in place.
I did speak with a couple that lived a little bit further back in the neighborhood, and they were asking me what was going on with the property. So we do not have, they're asking for the rezoning, but they do not have a project in mind for the properties. I'll reiterate that, correct?
The applicant that I have spoken to intends to use the existing building for a counseling service for children, but they don't have any plans to add any additional square footage to the building at this time. So they would be reusing the existing facility.
But remember we said that the zoning follows the land, not the owner of the land, because the owner can transition. Margaret, Malin, y'all are on the Planning Commission. Do y'all want to say what your process was?
Don't remember too much concern about it going that far back. I think partly, with it being zoned where multifamily could go in now, the B1B is our least intense business zoning. So feeling like that could be even less invasive to a neighborhood than a multifamily area could be for traffic and noise, et cetera. So anyway, Malin, what do you remember from our discussion?
Pretty much the same thing that the sheriff conveyed. I think one thing we did discuss was that if there was a concern of the zoning conveying with the property, and someone later on could do something different. I mean, if you look at it that way, that could go along with any other properties that are rezoned as well. So I think the use that they're talking about doing there, I think would be a great use for that property, and I think it would be great that there's a program to help some kids.
So this is first reading, so I would think we could accept Planning Commission's recommendation, and then if we get more input, and Chad, if you're able to talk to some more folks or whatever, then there's still opportunity with public hearing. So,
Sheriff, can you go back to the slide that had the R3 versus B1B property? Yeah, that
Sure.
right. Thank you. I would like to study this some more. I would like for all of City Council to take a good drive-by and look at that and make sure you think it's appropriate. It bothers me a little bit that it goes so deep back into the neighborhood, but it may not be anything. It may not be a big deal. But I did have a couple that asked me about this. And also you mentioned children's counseling, youth counseling. That's a pretty broad definition. Exactly what are we talking about? Sorry about that. When we say youth counseling, that it's kind of a broad stroke.
Well, their explanation to me when they describe their business, and they do have an office in Johnson City as well, is that it is in office. So there's no one living there, staying there overnight. It's not in any way a daycare or, a facility where children would be staying during the day. It would be more in line with the doctor's office. So an appointment only facility. But I can certainly, if there are operational questions like that I can find out more detail on, I'll be happy to. But that's the explanation to me of their current business is it's much like a therapist's office. So it functions as a medical office versus any kind of like inpatient living facility or anything like that.
Sheriff, as a point of clarification for council in their discussion, could you comment as to whether the two parcels that adjoin this property on its northern border, were they notified as part of the surrounding property owners?
So I do not, we certainly keep a list of the addresses that we sent the letters out to. I do not have that in front of me, but I would think that we send it to the parcel to the north. And well, really those parcels that touch it on the northern side. So one is purple and one is yellow, but I'll absolutely verify in the morning, but that would be typical practice.
I'm okay to let this go on first reading, but I do think council should get more information about who was notified. And is it appropriate, Mr. Sora, for us to delve into this a little deeper at our work session? Or actually, I would love to have the information of the company that's planning on locating there. I'm just curious to know why a company like that would locate in an area like this. And I would also like to, for city council members to drive by and see what you think about it. Just go, if I'm thinking this is exactly where, and I know exactly where it is on the road frontage, but this does kind of go deep into the neighborhood. It looks as though maybe it's not, and I'm over dramatizing it, but I think if we all do a drive by and look at it a little closer, I'd like to do that and get a little bit more information about specifically who was notified at our next work session, delve into it just a little bit deeper. And also my question would be, if we pass this on first reading tonight, does it have to pass on second reading at our next council meeting, or could it actually go 2 months or an additional council meeting if we go that route?
I think our normal course of event would be to have the public hearing and second reading on the next evening or on the next business meeting. You all can you could have the public hearing, you could accept public comment, you could defer action, and on second reading, you can really do anything you want to do in that regard. I'll be glad to place it on the work session. I think there are enough questions here that we absolutely should put it on the work session for further discussion. I would emphasize that it's not so much the use that this property owner plans to do as much as it is all of those B1B uses that Sheriff listed in her presentation. That's really the measure in which the rezoning should be judged.
And just one more question, and I'm just throwing this out there. I really do think that it is appropriate to go with our future land use to follow the B1B property. I'm just not sure it should go that deep in there too. So, Lee, Vince, what do you guys think about this? I'm a little concerned about it, but I'm okay. Maybe it's maybe it's nothing.
Well, I think that the depth of the property is the depth of the property. I mean, it's the parcel that it is a parcel. So, so to determine the depth or not, I don't think that's anything that we can really address. The parcel is what the parcel is. I do know that there is a new home that's being built directly behind this parcel on that larger rectangular piece of land, and the piece of property right next to it recently sold. And where it comes to the point, right there with the light purple, that northern point, highest point, that lot, I don't know if it's owned by other landowners, but I just want to be sure that everybody has been notified. I go back to my original comment, is that to Mr. Sora's point, the zoning follows the land, not what is currently being proposed. I don't have a problem with letting this pass through the first reading, realizing that whatever questions need to be answered or asked, there's still an opportunity to do that. I don't know, the current property owners, have they already bought this piece of property with the intent to put this business in there? Or is there a sale in waiting?
I believe that the explanation to the Planning Commission is that the sale is contingent on this rezoning.
Right. So I think for us to, I will be positive in its passage on first reading, and appreciate the process so that questions can be asked and answered.
I agree. I had the question when this came up, I guess during our work session, the different uses for this zoning, and I brought as far as like a Suboxone clinic or
right,
all of that. And I know that Mr. Sora got back with me, and that requires, was it M1?
M2 zoning.
M2 zoning. So there's nothing like that could be put on this piece of property. And I've driven by, I know the piece of property, and so I guess it's, as far as the depth of the property, the parcel is what the parcel is, and you can't, go in and split the parcel up in the back of it and say, well, this is going to be, we get that split zoning. So I guess at this point, I don't really have a issue with it. And I haven't heard from anyone, so I've not received any calls or anything.
I'm good to proceed forward as we just discussed. So if you're looking for a motion to, oh gosh, this is in front of me. This is ordinance, first reading, ordinance of 2016. I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Any other discussion? Okay, Tara, would you please call the roll?
Luttrell,
Yes.
Turner,
Yes.
Fire Robin,
Yes.
King,
Yes.
Powers.
Yes.
The next item on the agenda is the first reading of ordinance 20-17, abandoning an unopened portion of Leona Street as a public right-of-way. Mr. Sore, would you please summarize ordinance 20-17?
Yes, Mayor, I'd be glad to. This comes to us in the form of a request from Mr. Kenneth Dunn. He's the owner of property located at 800 East Mary Street as well as 801 Leona Street. And he's seeking the abandonment of an unopened right-of-way which divides his two properties. The abandonment of the right-of-way is to allow for the combination of the two parcels in a fashion that would enable the construction of a single-family residence on the property. The unopened portion of Leona Street has remained unimproved since its original dedication in 1943. As you can see, it was originally platted as a T in a T configuration with the unopened portion, which is about 150 feet long and about 45 feet in width. With that being unopened, the Leona Street is really more in an L configuration. So Mr. Dunn is the property owner all the way around the proposed abandonment. So consistent with our policy, if the abandonment does go forward, it would be abandoned to Mr. Dunn. So I know Mr. Metzger, our transportation engineer, is also with us tonight, and I'll ask him if he has issues to add to this. David?
Thank you. As Mr. Sore has indicated, this is a request that came in from the only adjacent property owner, Mr. Kenneth Dunn, who desires to build a single-family residence on the area here, which is outlined in red with the cross-hatching on it on your screens. This is the unopened portion of the Leona Street right-of-way that has been heavily forested since it was initially platted back in 1943 until very recently. Excuse me. As the only adjacent property owner, he has requested that this be abandoned. We did go through the typical abandonment research process as far as utilities are concerned. As you know, typically when we abandon a right-of-way, we retain stormwater and utility easements in the form of right-of-way. If we did that in this case, he wouldn't be able to build a residence where he wants to. So we polled all of our utility folks and this sort of thing. And it turns out that the only area that we do need to retain a utility easement is in the southernmost 15 foot of this abandoned proposed right-of-way, which is shown in the little blue rectangle on the map on your screens. With this being retained because there are BTS power lines in this area, with the zoning that's in place, this utility easement is less than the front yard setback of the zones, and so retaining this easement doesn't have any impact on where the house could be sited as far as this is concerned. Mr. Dunn is the only adjacent property owner. No other public input was sought because no other adjacent property owners are affected besides him. He would have to do a combination plat in order to eliminate setback issues and this kind of thing, because there are multiple parcels here. That subdivision plat is in process. It is not a condition of abandonment that the subdivision be complete. It is only a condition for him to be able to secure the building permit to actually construct the house. So this was considered by the Planning Commission on their October agenda, and they did recommend a favorable recommendation to the City Council for this abandonment. As with other abandonments that we've done over the years, this abandonment would require a second reading of the abandonment ordinance in order for it to become effective.
Thank you, David. Does any member of council have any questions?
I'd like to make a motion to approve ordinance 2017 authorizing the abandonment of unopened right-of-way of Leona Street.
I'll second.
Any more discussion? Okay, Tara, I believe we're ready to take a vote. Would you please call the roll?
Luttrell?
Yes.
Turner?
Yes.
Fire Robin?
Yes.
King?
Yes.
Powers?
Yes.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is the second reading of ordinance 20-12, amending chapter 14 of the City Code of Ordinances as it relates to the adoption of the International Residential Code 2018 edition. Mr. Sore, would you please summarize ordinance 20-12?
Yes, Mayor, I'd be glad to. Actually, the next 3 second readings are somewhat, well, they are very much intertwined. However, in terms of our process, we must address them separately.
but Ordinance 2012, as council will recall, really over the last spring and summer, we've had a great deal of conversation regarding things that we can do to incentivize or improve or encourage or remove impediments to residential growth within our community. I know council has had conversations with some builders in our community that have indicated that there are certain residential codes that are not in place in other areas, that if they were removed would be an element that would induce residential construction activity within our community. So the next three ordinances are really related to that conversation. The other process in this is as council's aware, the city of Bristol, Tennessee is an exempt jurisdiction. And essentially that gives the city primacy when it comes to regulating, permitting, and inspecting construction. So, and with that, part of the conditions with that exempt jurisdiction is that we must maintain our building codes to within 7 years of the latest edition. And at a minimum, we must be where the state of Tennessee is with their building codes. So as it relates to the International Residential Code, we're currently enforcing the 2012 International Residential Code. The state of Tennessee recently adopted the 2018 International Residential Code with certain exceptions. And what Ordinance 20-12 does, it passes, it embodies those exceptions as well as the 2018 International Residential Code. Tim Beavers, our Director of Development Services, will now detail those exceptions that the state has implemented and are also follow with our if 2012 is adopted, we'll follow with our code on second reading. Tim?
Thank you, Mr. Sora. Did an excellent job of outlining everything for you. I will skip to the next slide, and this ordinance would adopt the 2018 International Residential Code with some amendments. And these amendments, some of them were taken by Tennessee, the state of Tennessee, and we wanted to be consistent with those amendments. So this would adopt, like, once again, the 2018 International Residential Code. And some of the amendments that we would request to be added would be fire sprinkler systems are not mandatory in the residential structures. Electrical installations must follow the National Electric Code as adopted by the city. It talks about seismic design categories shall utilize the International Residential Code 2015 edition, and that's a chart that the state of Tennessee, that's an exception that they took to the 2018 Residential Code. Smoke alarms are not required to be interconnected or hardwired in existing structures. So if you're putting on a new smoke alarm, you don't have to hardwire it. If you take the ceiling down and all the things around it where you could rewire the system, then it would be required to be hardwired together and have a separate power source. The big ones, the ones right now, the 2012, and where Mr. Sora had mentioned that other communities, Kingsport, Johnson City, are different than us, but this will put us in alignment with them, is the building envelope tightness test, commonly referred to as the blower door test, is optional. It can be a visual test, and that is state of Tennessee allowed that. And also that would be an improvement to what we have as far as a test and some additional cost. Also, the HVAC duct air leakage test, the duct blast test would be optional. And then the bigger one that most builders had talked to us about previously with the 2012 version was the insulation, fenestration, and U-factor requirements are per the IRC, the International Residential Code 2009 edition. Currently, the 2012 edition requires some additional insulation for homes. So this would let that roll back to the 2009 version, which would require less energy efficient home. And then a couple more sections for fuel burning appliances deleted in entirety. And then once again, it's got the insulation and fenestration requirement for log cabins would be per the 2009 edition. Also, in adopting building codes, some of those have penalties that you need to adopt if you want to apply them to construction. And the list you see in front of you, I will not run down all those. The Appendix E, F, H, I, J, K, M, O, P, those would be requested. And basically what they are is if you do one of these items, then here is the code for you to follow. It's not required that you put these items in your home, or like radon control. It's not required that you do radon control in your home. But if you do radon control, here are the regulations you need to follow for that radon control. So that's all these appendices. And you may ask what happened to the other appendices, A, B, C, D, G, and N. Those are reference appendices. So they're just referenced in the code as where you can look at additional ways to do things. They're not actually regulatory. And then code Appendix L is fees, and we have a separate fee schedule that we utilize and have adopted other than the International Residential Code fees. So with that, can answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Tim. Any questions for staff? Is there a motion to take action on this item?
Motion to approve ordinance 2012.
Second.
Would any member of council like to have further discussion? Okay, Tara, I believe we're ready to move on for a vote. Please call the roll.
Luttrell?
Yes.
Turner?
Yes.
Fire Robin?
Yes.
King?
Yes.
Powers?
Yes.
The next item on the agenda is the second reading of ordinance 20-13, amending chapter 14 of the city's code of ordinances as it relates to the International Energy Conservation Code 2018 edition. Mr. Sorge, will please summarize ordinance 20-13.
Yes, Mayor, I'll be glad to. As I indicated earlier, this is the second of three that are very much interrelated in terms of our building codes. The city currently enforces the 2012 International Energy Conservation Code. The state of Tennessee recently adopted the 2018 International Energy Conservation Code, and much like the International Residential Code, they did take some notable exceptions to the 2018 code, and Tim will detail those momentarily. But the adoption of the 2018 International Energy Conservation Code by the state of Tennessee does establish the minimum energy conservation standards in which residential construction must be met by builders, and we do need to align our regulations consistent with those of the state. So, Tim, would you like to detail the exceptions to the 2018 Energy Conservation Code that the state has approved and are also embodied in Ordinance 2013?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Shora. This would be the adoption of the 2018 International Energy Conservation Code as it pertains to residential construction only. This is not for commercial construction. The state has yet to adopt any further 2018 regulations. So the exceptions, and I'll go to the next slide here for you. There's really just the 4 exceptions, and 3 of them we've talked about before. The air tightness blower door test is optional. The HVAC duct air leakage test would be optional. And then once again, the 2009 insulation, fenestration, and U factors requirements instead of the 2018 version. And then the 4th one would just be the commercial buildings for the time being shall continue to meet the requirements of the 2012 Energy Conservation Code. So at some point, the state will move to adopt those commercial requirements, but they have not done so at this time. With that, I can answer any questions you may have.
Any questions from staff?
I'm sorry, Tim, repeat that last sentence you said.
At some point, the state will adopt the 2018 International Energy Conservation Code for commercial construction. And at that time, we will look at that adoption, but they have not adopted it yet. They're still on the 2012 version.
Anything else?
Motion to approve 20-13.
Have a second?
I'll second.
Would any member of council like to discuss this ordinance in addition? I believe we're ready for a vote. Tara, please call the roll.
Luttrell,
Yes.
Turner,
Yes.
Fire Robin,
Yes.
King,
Yes.
Powers.
Yes.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is the second reading of ordinance 20-14, amending chapter 14 of the city's code of ordinance as it relates to the National Electric Code 2017 edition. Mr. Sword, would you please summarize 20-14?
Yes, Mayor. Last in our list of regulatory building codes to deal with tonight does deal with the National Electric Code used in building construction. The city currently enforces standards that were established in the 2012 National Electric Code. Again, we must be within 7 years of the latest edition. And the state of Tennessee has recently adopted the 2017 National Electric Code, once again, with some notable exceptions. And Tim is going to deal with those or address those with you. But the adoption of the 2017 National Electric Code by the state then does establish the minimum standards that we must meet in terms of building construction in order for us to remain as an exempt jurisdiction. So, Tim?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Sora. As Mr. Sora explained, this would be the adoption of the 2017 National Electrical Code, and this would be for all construction, residential, commercial, industrial, any construction. And the reason we need to be consistent with the state, which they are on the 2017, is to keep that exemption. So we're requesting adoption of the 2017 National Electrical Code. There's a couple exceptions. One is a section on available fault current is optional, and this is really just labeling of some information on equipment. So that's all that pertains to. And then the AFCI arc fault circuit interrupters shall be optional before, and you can read the list of areas and branch circuits. So it's not requiring that you have the AFCIs for things like unfinished basements, garages, laundry areas, bathrooms. And that is the state exceptions, those two. So we're adopting exactly what the state adopted in the 2017 version, and that's what we would recommend. With that, I can answer any questions.
Okay, any questions from staff? Is there a motion to take action on this item?
Move to approve.
I'll second. Would any member of council like to discuss ordinance 20-14? Okay, I believe we're ready for a vote. Tara, please call the roll.
Luttrell,
Yes.
Turner,
Yes.
Fire Robin,
Yes.
King,
Yes.
Powers.
Yes.
The next item on the agenda is the second reading of ordinance 20-15, amending chapter 6 of the city's code of ordinances as it relates to the delivery of beer. Mr. Sora, would you please summarize ordinance 20-15?
Yes, Mayor, I'd be glad to. As council may recall, in April of this year, council approved resolution 2028, and it provided temporary regulations for the sale of beer by delivery. And this was in response really to Governor Lee's executive order number 17, which allowed, among other things, It permitted restaurants and limited service restaurants that had a Tennessee Alcohol Beverage Commission permit to sell alcoholic beverages with a food element associated with them for takeout, as long as the delivery conditions were met. So Resolution 2028 extended this privilege to certain holders of beer permits for on-premises consumption, manufacturing, and dual permit holders, regardless of their ability to sell food. And as you're aware, we have a couple of either craft breweries or craft beer distributors in our downtown that don't have a food element as part of their restaurant. This simply extended their ability to be on the same footing as other restaurants that had a Tennessee ABC permit and were allowed to do the type of home delivery through the governor's order. Staff recently received a request for consideration of an amendment to our beer ordinance that would allow for the permanent delivery of beer for those types of restaurants. Ordinance 2015 does amend the beer ordinance to allow for the delivery of beer by holders of on-premises, manufacturing, and dual permits issued by the city's beer board. It does provide provisions that the delivery of beer is limited to addresses located within the city limits. The delivery of beer would be limited to someone who is 21 years of age, and the purchaser must also be 21 years of age and not be be appropriately that would pass normal sobriety tests, much like the sale of the beer if it was occurring on premises. So this has been before our beer board. It's been discussed by our beer board, and they found it agreeable that this was a reasonable accommodation to extend that privilege to our beer holders of these types of permits. Ms. Smith is with us this evening as our city attorney, who serves as counsel to the beer board and also works very closely with any type of beer ordinance amendments and so forth, and is available to respond to questions and may have additional comments. Danielle?
I have one additional comment, which is that both Johnson City and Nashville have moved recently to allow beer delivery under their beer ordinances. So we are not the only people moving in this direction if this is adopted by council.
Okay, any other questions by staff? Is there a motion to take action on this item?
Motion to approve ordinance 2015.
I'll second.
Would any member like to have additional discussion on this ordinance? Okay, I believe we're ready for a vote. Tara, please call the roll.
Luttrell?
Yes.
Turner?
Yes.
Fire Robin?
Yes.
King?
Yes.
Powers?
Yes.
Next, we have Resolution 20-102, authorizing a water and sanitary sewer tap fee holiday to incentivize new family residential construction within the city limits. Mr. Seward, would you please summarize this matter for the public?
Yes, Mayor. As I've indicated earlier, there's been a lot of discussion, and really over the past 6 or 7 months, about strategies to incentivize residential development within our community. During our October 27th work session, staff discussed the potential, or really embellished the discussion of the potential for a tap fee holiday associated with water and sanitary sewer taps to stimulate residential construction. The incentive would suspend the established cost of the tap fee when associated with a single family construction only, and it'd be offered for a 3-month period commencing January 1st and culminating March the 31st, 2021. The selection of this period is just consistent with that is a typical time in which residential construction taps would be purchased in advance of the spring construction season moving forward. Again, the incentive would be only for single family residents. There would be a nominal fee of $5 per tap that would be assessed to remain consistent with our existing utility regulations. Contractors utilizing the incentive program would be required to commence construction within 1 year of the March 31st, 2021 sunset of the incentive program. And the tap fee incentive program would not be available to developers utilizing water and sanitary sewer material incentive program. This program really is probably fits nicely with established subdivisions that still have lots that have not been built upon, and this would provide a small measure of inducement to the residential contractor preparing to build those homes. Water tap fee is $800. Sanitary sewer tap fee is $1,000. So once we get through this initial period, staff then will report back to City Council with a report on how successful the program was, and whether we offer it again would certainly be the decision of City Council. So this resolution 2102 just provides the holiday for that 3-month period, conditioned upon those items that have been detailed here tonight.
Thank you. Does any member of council have a question for staff? Is there a motion to take action on this item?
Motion to approve 20-102.
Second.
Would any member of council like to discuss resolution 20-102? Okay, I believe we're ready for a vote. Tara, please call the roll.
Luttrell,
Yes.
Turner,
Yes.
Fire Robin,
Yes.
King,
Yes.
Powers.
Yes.
This brings us to the consent agenda. Mr. Sorb, would you please read the items on tonight's consent agenda?
Yes, Mayor. We have the minutes of the October 6, 2020 City Council meeting. We have the minutes from the October 27, 2020 City Council work session. We have resolution 2103, changing the name of a private street, Center Drive to Crest Point Drive. We have resolution 2104, awarding a bid for the purchase of a mini excavator. Resolution 2105, authorizing the submittal of a grant application to the Tennessee Department of Transportation Traffic Signal Modernization Grant Program. Resolution 2106, appointing members to the Board of Zoning Appeals to staggered terms. Resolution 2107, adopting a restated plan document for the city's pre-tax benefits plan. Resolution 2108, adopting a restated plan document for the city's health reimbursement arrangement. Resolution 2109, authorizing participation in the Public Entity Partners Driver Safety Matching Grant Program. And Resolution 2110, authorizing participation in the Public Entity Partners Property Conservation Grant Matching Grant Program.
Okay, would any member of council like to have any item removed from the consent agenda? Hearing that.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Tara, please call the roll.
Luttrell,
Yes.
Turner,
Yes.
Fire Robin,
Yes.
King,
Yes.
Powers.
Yes.
Okay, at this time, we move on to the Board of Education Liaison Report, and I'd like to ask Dr. Tudor to present.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I have just a few things to update you on this evening. First of all, it's my pleasure to recognize that Ms. Jennifer Burleson, who is our school nutrition director, has been recognized as one of 2 state nominees for the RISE Award. The RISE Award was created by Congress in 2019 to recognize the efforts of classified school employees. And this will actually be the first year that the United States Department of Education will award this recognition. And so Ms. Burleson, we nominated Ms. Burleson back in the summer, actually. She was selected by a state panel as one of 2 finalists, and she'll now go on and compete at the national level for that recognition. As you're aware, I've kept you updated on how our school nutrition department has certainly served our families and our students during the course of the pandemic. In addition to that, Ms. Burleson is great at supporting and really thinking innovatively about school programming and how best to support our our children outside of the pandemic, even in normal circumstances. She's a fantastic asset to our leadership team. Hopefully at some point, most recognizably, she's recently worked on grant funding to purchase a food truck that we will now be able to utilize to feed our children in innovative ways. She was able to use it, I think, one time this summer during the pandemic to feed children in neighborhoods. And as soon as some of our restrictions are lifted, I'm sure she'll have that truck out more and you'll see that visible. So she's truly an asset to our leadership team. And I just wanted to publicly recognize her for her efforts with within our school district serving our children. Second, I am sorry that we were not able to hold a public grand opening ceremony for our new Tennessee Middle School gym. But at the first available opportunity, I'd love to have you all visit the gym. If you haven't had an opportunity, we do have a virtual tour that Mr. Jim Butcher narrates of the gym. We were able to kind of video that on the grand opening day of November 3rd. It is very appropriately, the court is named after Coach Ron Wallace, who spent the majority of his career teaching students physical education at Vance Middle School and coaching both at Vance Middle School and Tennessee High School. He was a tremendous asset to our community and touched the lives of many boys and girls in our community. Our school board was very honored to be able to recognize his memory in that way. So you'll notice that in the virtual tour that the court is named after him, and it's a beautiful facility. Our students and teachers have moved in. We've been able to expand some of our classroom spaces back into that area. We were tight on moving folks out, and so we're utilizing those spaces temporarily for things like band and chorus, and certainly gym. We hope to have our first basketball game in the facility on November 30th. If all goes well and we're able to actually have a basketball season, that will be the inaugural event for utilizing that gym. So again, welcome the opportunity to walk you all through that, or certainly check out the virtual tour at your convenience. I just wanted to bring awareness to the Purposity app. If you're not familiar with that, that is an initiative from the First Lady Maria Lee, and it really is a great opportunity to target very specific needs of children and families in our district. Folks can sign up for the free Purposity app. There's information on our website, actually, on our connection webpage that Kay Ward oversees. There are specific needs posted on the app of children and families within our district, if you follow us specifically. And they're things that would be unusual and not necessarily supported by our Family Resource Center. We've had requests for things such as a sleeping bag for families who are doubled up and we have children sleeping on couches, or bedding, those sorts of things, maybe things that we don't typically have access to on our Family Resource Center. So if you sign up and make a donation for that, for a specific item, Kay Ward is able to go ahead and make that purchase, and usually within 24 or 48 hours gets whatever the needed item is in the hands of our families. So another great way to reach out to families in our community with specific needs. Again, that information for that app is on our website if you're interested in that. And then finally, I just wanted to update you on our COVID initiative, or COVID response, certainly recovery. We started this week. Tomorrow actually will be our first remote Wednesday. We added a remote Wednesday for the rest of the semester. Hopefully that will get us through. The primary reasons for that, one was because of staffing shortages. We found that we have a lot of needs in terms of when teachers are required to quarantine or isolate. We don't have an adequate substitute teacher pool. And so if you know of folks who are willing to provide that service, we're seeking substitute teachers. When we don't have that, we have to move our part-time support staff around. And so by moving to a 4-day work week, we're able to cover the entire student day with those part-time folks, including our school nurses. We were finding that we believe that a good amount of our success in minimizing the spread of the virus within our buildings is because of following safety protocols. And so when students exhibit symptoms, we send them to our clinics in all of our buildings and immediately send them home until they can either get an alternate diagnosis or a test or their symptoms improve. And so that's really taxing our school nurses. And so we were able to move them to a 4-day work week so they could cover the entire student day rather than part of the student day. The second reason for that is to provide a midweek thorough cleaning, particularly of very common spaces, but also classroom spaces, allowing teachers time to do more thorough cleaning of surfaces and touch spaces in the buildings in their classrooms. So if that is not successful, then our alternate plans will be to look at individual buildings. If we have to make adjustments and consider remote learning or even going back to hybrid, it'll be based on individual building needs. And so if a particular school does not have adequate staff, for instance, to continue normal operations, we may have to transition a grade level or a classroom or an entire building to a hybrid or remote option until we can get adequate staffing back in place. We are concerned about what happens between Thanksgiving and Christmas. Certainly there are lots of opportunities for travel or families to be together, more gatherings and more opportunities for spread of the virus. And so we've put out some information to our families to really encourage them to think about protecting themselves and others and limit as much as they can exposure to the virus so that we are not, spreading that and bringing it back into our buildings, certainly. But we're prepared to make changes if necessary between Thanksgiving and Christmas, and certainly at the beginning of the new year, particularly in terms of flu and COVID season overlapping one another. We were able to have some successful flu clinics in all of our buildings, which was successful. We were able to target and offer the flu vaccine to our families within our buildings, and we partnered with the health department to do that. So we're hoping that we'll be able to hopefully limit much of the impact of the flu season as it aligns with COVID, but we're still very aware of the concerns around those. And I think that's all I have for you, unless you all have questions for me.
Dr. Tudor, as always, it's a joy having you with us and being part of our council meeting. These updates that you bring are very valuable to us. And we thank you and your entire staff for all the hard work that you're doing to educate the children and to keep them safe, as well as your staff.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay, we'll move on to city manager's report.
Yes, Mayor, I'd like to just remind council of some happenings this coming month. I will remind you that tomorrow morning at 8 a.m., and I think each of you have a Zoom invitation. If you do not, please let me know and I will get one for you for the Network Sullivan Partnership Board meeting. I know 3 of you serve on that board, but I know all of you all have an interest in what transpires during these discussions. And I do believe the regionalism topic will be on tomorrow's agenda. Also, you've all been registered now for the National League of Cities virtual conference that's conducted from Wednesday, November the 18th through Friday, November the 20th. You should have received, probably 2 weeks ago now, a confirming email that did confirm your registration, and you will be being provided the access codes and so forth as we get closer to the conference. We also have our November 24th work session. It will be conducted in an electronic format. Will commence at 11 a.m. We do have Alicia Phelps with Northeast Tennessee Tourism Association, better known as NETA, that will be making a presentation to us that day. Also, I do anticipate having the draft 2021 Tri-Cities legislative policy. I did send early drafts of that to you a week or so ago. If you do have comments, please get them back to us. We'd like to bring closure to that this week. Kingsport is providing lead on that this year, as it's their turn to do so, and their attorney will be compiling early next week the final document for distribution later this month. And then also during our meeting on the 24th, I'd like to bring our rules and procedures back for how City Council operates. So take a look at that document. If there are things that you would like to amend in those policies, they're your policies. That's how you conduct your business. So it'd be a good time to revisit that. And then lastly, I'll remind everyone that city offices tomorrow will be closed in honor of our observance of Veterans Day. Thank you.
Okay, City Council comments.
Mayor, if it's okay, I'm going to go first. My screen went blank about halfway through our meeting, so I've probably been looking like I don't know where I am, but I just want to comment a second on Ron Wallace, great coach, coached my youngest son, Nick, a great teacher on the basketball court as well, and a great teacher academically as well. So that's really great to hear about the new court being named after him. The only other thing I wanted to say is happy Thanksgiving to everyone, happy holiday season. Think about those folks that don't have a lot of family or don't have any family. They're in shut-ins and things of that nature, and support your small businesses.
Anyone else?
I'll jump in next. I'd like to compliment the school system. I know this has been really hard with the COVID numbers going up and trying to keep students in session. And to piggyback on the Thanksgiving, we all know the story of 1621 and Plymouth and so forth and so on. But did you know that really we have a woman to thank for initiating the formal declaration of Thanksgiving? Sarah Josepha Hale began in 1827 lobbying for a national holiday for Thanksgiving. And she was an author. She was an editor to magazines. She wrote Mary Had a Little Lamb. She was very diverse, and she mounted this campaign for 36 years. In 1863, President Abraham Lincoln finally heeded her request and established the last Thursday of November to be Thanksgiving Day. This was changed by FDR during the Great Depression. It was moved to the third Thursday, which it seems most appropriate that our Small Business Saturday is the Saturday following Thanksgiving now. A nod to trying to keep our small businesses stimulated and growing. I'd like to also ask that during this holiday season that we remember those experiencing food fragility. We know that this is a real issue with a lot of our students at this point in time, that we remember those that don't have warm, stable housing. And there are, we don't oftentimes realize it, but there are a lot of people that just don't really have someone that they can reach out to that loves them, that can put their arms around them. I would encourage each of us to find ways to help provide these needs for those in our community. Random acts of kindness by contributing or working at food pantries, contributing to the closed closets, donating to ministerial funds, the Haven of Rest, the YWCA, and all of our nonprofits are in need at this time. Thanksgiving is a wonderful time to be with our family and friends, but it's also a time for us to take a time out and to remember those that perhaps are less fortunate. We have a very loving and giving community here in Bristol, and I welcome everyone to share with one another. Thank you.
Go ahead, Margaret.
Okay, I can go. Thank you, Lee, for those words, and thoughts and reminders. I want to say thanks again to Tara and our finance staff. I think I say frequently that we take that for granted, but it shouldn't be. That it's a lot to get that recognition and to keep our finances transparent, aligned, all the things that give us high quality reporting and high quality work. Also, we just wanted to note that I'm on library board and our library remains open. Some of the libraries in our region are unable to be open. Ours is open. They have a little different rules for how long you can spend time in the library, et cetera, but they are open. Also encourage folks, if you can, go by there. The posters that the YWCA did for the suffrage celebration are now displayed at our library. They were displayed in our downtown businesses, and now they're at the library. And I saw photographs of that past couple days. It looks really it looks great. So hoping to get by there to look at those. Also, congratulations to Johnson City, who's been working on murals and dedicated one for suffrage, and the folks in our region, and particularly in Johnson City, that they found who had been involved with suffrage movement. On Parks and Rec, just as we know, our parks are open, and Nature Center continues at this time to be open, with checking in to be sure that you're in good health going in to visit. Pickleball courts, the report is that those continue to be used quite a lot. And just a note on our COVID that we're seeing this is the worst numbers we've had. It continues to not be where we would like it to be. So just a reminder for all of us to do what we're supposed to do with wearing masks, physical distancing, et cetera. And I don't know about y'all, but sometimes when I'm watching a movie or something on television and people are interacting, I'm like, no, you're too close. You're too close. You need to be further apart. So it's having its effect. Also just wanted to note, and Dr. Tudor, for your schools and Tennessee High in particular, for the loss of life of one of your family, and what that does at any time, but during this time especially, that for our students are going through a whole lot, our faculty and staff are going through a whole lot. So I think our whole community's hearts have gone out with that. Also would note, Mr. Sora, to thank our safety officers who do everything they can to help our families and our children and citizens in our community. And I know when things happen, it's really hard on everybody who has been involved. So just want to recognize that. And I'll join everybody else to say to happy Thanksgiving, and do look around and see who you can bring a little bit of thanks to, and a little bit of happiness to, if you can. So thank you.
I'd just like to echo all the wonderful comments that's been said, and I take those to heart, and I hope everyone else that's out there listening does as well. I would like to remind everyone, on November the 19th, there's a conference call that I'll be attending regarding the historic tax credit legislation. Hopefully, that'll get presented by our legislators and placed on Governor Lee's budget for the coming year. It's great seeing all these ordinances passed and moving forward to incentivize, potential housing builds in the city. And just a reminder, everyone, please wash your hands, keep a safe distance, and by all means, wear your masks. With that, unless anyone else has anything, we'll call this meeting adjourned.